Welcome, listeners tuned in to CFUZ. We interrupt this regularly scheduled broadcasting to bring you the Naramata Candidates Forum from RDOS Area E in Naramata. We are at Centennial Hall in Naramata.
Columbia Hall,
excuse me. Thank you very much. Columbia Hall. It's a little bit further away from where we were earlier this afternoon broadcasting the Senior Center Forum. This is the Candidates Forum 2022. It's set to begin shortly here. I believe we are first. My name is Dave Del Rizzo, and I'm joined, as always, by
Nils Finson.
Thank you, Nils, my partner in crime here. I feel like we're the, when you watch the CBC too much during elections and you see all the same people talking about stuff. I think it's very cool, though, that we seem to be filling a gap this year and broadcasting a lot of these forums. And I think it's super important that we are able to broadcast these forums to let people know who can't be in attendance, allow them to hear what the candidates have to say, and to help and educate themselves and make up their minds of who they're going to vote for on October 15th.
Yeah, it's a lot. We're providing this information via another channel, another medium, right? So it's very convenient.
Is candidate Jesse Martin in the house?
Excuse me, that was we had the room sound in here a little too loudly. Apologize for that. That was Craig Henderson, the host, and we're going to shift over. We're going to shift over to Craig Henderson shortly here as they start the broadcast, but I think we're still looking for one of the candidates to come up to the front. I believe they're going to start with the school district trustee candidates first.
That sounds all right.
And then after which there'll be a short pause where we will the panel will consist of the three candidates for RDOS Area E chair.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the paperwork we were provided, and that sort of sounds about right. So just checking some technical things here.
Yeah, apologies for the technical mishaps that we slightly were experiencing, but we're going to begin the forum soon. Thank you for your patience. You're tuned in to CFUZ 92.9 FM, broadcasting live from Naramata Centennial Hall, Columbia Hall. Excuse me, I got that wrong again. And we will be here from now for the next approximately 2 hours as we bring you this All Candidates Forum.
And they've just given me the word that they are ready to go.
Okay, and we are ready to go. Let's shift over to the forum.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. On behalf of the Naramata Citizens Association, I'd like to welcome you all here this evening. I'd like to thank the candidates for agreeing to give up their evenings to be grilled. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered this evening on the unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan peoples. I'd like to thank the Naramata Centre for the venue. Craig Henderson will be our moderator this evening, and I'd like to thank him for always doing such an amazing job at these types of events. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Craig.
Yes, I'd like to thank the NCA, too, for asking me again to moderate tonight's forum. I think this is the fourth one since 2008, and it is the most interesting for me because we have two positions to elect, and we have 5 candidates and no incumbents. I've been a voter here for over 24 years, and I can't remember in that quarter century if we ever had an election with so few or so many candidates. But please enlighten me. If you remember one from 30 or 40 years ago, come talk to me later. I'd like to know the historic note. So there are many ways to run a forum, and we had to set some policies in the interest of fairness and realizing that we have a limited period of time tonight. We have to keep on track in an effort to ensure we've heard from the candidates about many issues. Time limits are set in order to give the candidate a reasonable chance to respond and provide a sense of their knowledge. Their answers in a short period of time to reply might not be deeply thorough or in-depth, but their answers should be enough for you to get an idea of their skills, their character, their experience. We have a lot of topics to cover tonight that involve both the school district and the regional district. I also realize that over the course of a couple of weeks here in Naramata, an extremely troubling issue has surfaced up on the hillside, a very important issue. While there may be questions related to it tonight, there may come a point that I have to say we've covered that topic enough. We need to understand other things in this forum as well, affecting Naramata, future and current. So I'll make my best effort to weigh out when a topic has had enough coverage from the questions. Candidates will have 2 minutes in their opening remarks, the chance to introduce themselves to you. And after that, questions will come from the floor at this microphone here at the head of the room. We've also received advance questions via mynaramata.com, and some written questions were submitted here. Are you still accepting written questions, Deb? Yeah, well, so there's a box at the back. Thank you. Answers to questions. Candidates will have 90 seconds. If a question is posed to a specific candidate, that candidate will be asked to speak first, and the others may follow. If the question is not directed at a specific candidate, then we ask candidates to answer in a rotation order. You'll see how it works. We'll begin in a few minutes with the session for school trustee. This position is voted on by the electorate in Naramata, Caledon area, West Bench area, and in rural Summerland. At the end of each of the two segments of the forum, the school trustee role and then the Area E director role, candidates will be given closing remarks of up to 2 minutes. The timekeeper is Lynn Cook. She will hold up a card to the candidates when they have 15 seconds remaining in allotted time for speaking, and she'll ring the bell once. There we go. And when that's done and time's up, well, then she'll display to the candidates this and ring the bell twice. So there you go. Well, if order needs to be maintained during the evening, I have brought my trusty gavel. And this is not one of those tiny courtroom gavels. No, this is the Louisville Slugger version of the gavel. World Series will be on soon. Go Jays go. Had to have a baseball reference tonight. Anyway, this forum is being broadcast on CFUZ 92.9 or online at cfuz.ca, Peach City Community Radio. Thank you guys for being here tonight. It is live right now, yeah. It will also be available to listen to later, so I'll put something on mynaramata.com when the audio file is ready to listen to on demand. So we'll begin with the candidates for Rural School Trustee, and once more I'll ask if Jesse Martin is in the house. Nope, I guess not. And I'll also mention that when the school trustee portion of the evening is done, it might be just a few minutes from now. We don't know how many questions will come from the floor. We'll have a bit of a very short break for the 3 Area E director candidates to come forward. We'll change out the names, pour them fresh glasses of water, get them settled, and then continue again. So it won't be too much of a break in there. So we do only have one trustee candidate, Karen Botsford. And Karen, you were second in the order we drew before the event with a fancy hat we have there. But by virtue of you being the only one here, we can welcome you and give you 2 minutes for your opening comments, please.
Thank you, Deb and Craig, for organizing this forum, and thank you to everyone who has come out this evening. I live in Naramata Village with my partner of 38 years. We have 2 grown children, and as any grandparent would say, 2 adorable grandchildren. Recently retired and wanting to contribute to our community, I'm excited about the opportunity to serve as your school trustee. Education is the gateway to healthy and thriving communities. I worked in education for 20 years, including directly with trustees for over 8 years. I understand the role of a trustee in areas of governance, oversight, and budgeting. An important aspect of governance is financial stewardship, connecting district goals, strategic planning, and financing through the establishment of the district's annual budget. A key responsibility of a trustee is to advocate on behalf of students and provide resources for students to fulfill their best potential in a safe environment. Rural schools such as Naramata, Caledon, and West Bench are the heart of their communities. The Naramata School is an amazing example of this. It is clear the school is vital to the community. The Naramata School Garden is one example of the learning enrichment that dedicated community members and staff provide. May Day is another. I have the time and energy to engage with the school and the community, listening and learning from you, and will bring your concerns to the board table. I have the experience, expertise, and commitment to focus on my duties as school trustee. I'm passionate about supporting rural schools and the communities they serve. That is close.
We now invite any of you to come up to the microphone and ask a question of the school trustee candidate. Any questions in the box, Deb, at the back of the room? No. Okay.
Well,
would you be prepared to do your
closing
comments?
It's really fast. I would like to close by saying that I have the experience, expertise. Oh, sorry.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a long way from the back of the room, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Karen, for your opening comments. I don't know if this is on. Can you hear me okay? We got it. Thank you very much. Thanks very much for your comments. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you coming out and wanting to represent our community. So thanks for that. As a former college administrator, I feel like I have to say something, right? I have to ask you some questions, right?
Yes.
So I guess 2 questions, if you don't mind. If you could maybe elaborate on your expertise and experience that you've had with schools. And from personal knowledge, I know that school trustees are often faced with very difficult decisions. Sometimes they seem like they're simply a monetary thing, but when it comes to rural schools, I just wonder how you're going to be faced, if you're faced with a situation where it comes to budgets and closing schools or expanding schools, you know, how will you address those issues, and what approach would you use for us? Thanks.
Okay, so to address the first question about my experience, I worked in school district 36, Surrey, which is the largest district, and I worked with the Secretary-Treasurer, the Board of Education, and the CEO, the superintendent. So I worked very closely with the board. I was at the table, I was not a trustee, but I was at the table supporting the board and attended all liaison meetings, meetings that included mayor and council, all sorts of stakeholders, the teachers union, QP, and DPAC, which is District Parents Advisory Committee, and heard firsthand the concerns. I also prepared everything, including budgets, financial reports, board agendas, so I have an in-depth knowledge of the routine. I understand the School Act. I've been at the table with Ministry of Education folks. So I feel like while I haven't been a trustee, I certainly understand the role. And the second question about tough decisions, yes, there will be some tough decisions. The previous board did defer the long-range facilities plan they tabled it. So that is going to be up on the table this term. And that is one of the reasons why I ran as trustee, because I really do believe that rural schools are the heart of their communities. And in some communities, they're the only building. So that's where the community gathers. That's where people come together. That's where our children are educated. And I feel very strongly that we need to protect those schools, even though the enrollment is low. And that's a fact. In all the rural schools, it is low. So I will work hard. I know I will be one of 7 voices, but I have a strong voice, and I believe passionately in it. And I think engaging with the community and advocating are the 2 big key pieces to making those tough decisions and looking at every alternative possible, including catchment redraws. And I could talk to you after about it if you like, but thank you.
Great. Any more questions for the audience for our school trustee candidate? Okay, Karen, you're free to deliver your closing remarks, please.
Thank you, Craig. I would like to close by saying that I have the experience, expertise, and commitment to serve as your rural trustee, and it will be my focus, not a second job. I'm committed to working with all stakeholders to ensure students receive the best K-12 education possible, and I'm committing to putting students first in every decision at the board table. I am passionate about rural schools, knowing they are the heart of their communities. It has been 30 years since a trustee has been elected from Naramata. It's time. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you. Sorry.
I now invite the Area E Director candidates to come forward. We'll just set the table up here for them. I forgot to remind you that please turn off your devices. I just had to reach in my pocket and do so. So please join me in that procedure when we're gathered in a room like this, so phones don't go off and such. Election day, of course, is October 15th. You can vote at Naramata School, just up the road, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The advance poll, there's only one day for advance polling, and that's October 5th. For Naramata and Area E voters, that is you. Advance polls, though, are not here at the school. They are at the RDOS office, 101 Martin Street, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Wednesday, 2 days from today. If you want more information about that, the website I found, it wasn't quite really clear when I went to the RDOS main page. I discovered you had to go to rdosregionalconnections.ca, rdosregionalconnections.ca. And that website has phone numbers and email addresses for the Area E Director candidates. And if you have questions about eligibility of voters, who can vote, do you have to own property, or what if several of you own the same property? There's an explanation there on who can vote in local elections. Local elections like this have different rules than federal or provincial elections. So we'll just give it a few more minutes while we get set up here.
All right, you're listening to CFUZ 92.9 FM. We're broadcasting live from Columbia Hall in Naramata, where we will shortly get to the portion where the panel will consist of the Area E candidates for RDOS chair. And they're just setting up the table, and I think we'll recommence very shortly.
Well, it's 7:19 now by my watch, and we're going to go to about 8:35 and then start to wrap things up for the evening, because it will take 10 minutes, 12 minutes or so to wrap things up. So we're going to go with questions that have been submitted through My Naramata, some that's been submitted in the box tonight, and your questions from the floor. So maybe I'll begin with one of them that was submitted via My Naramata and some email from a My Naramata reader. And the question is, well, actually, getting ahead of myself, we've got to have those introductory comments. Yeah, so there's the felt hat. We picked names before. Some of the NCA people picked the names. And so that determined that the opening comments first, the 2 minutes of opening comments, Jason Cox will start first, followed by Anita Molero. I didn't ask you, Anita, is that Molero? Is that the way we say it? Okay, Molero. And Adrian Federigo will be third with the opening comments. So for 2 minutes, Jason, we invite you to start.
Thank you, Craig. Big thank you to Deb Linton and the Naramata Citizens Association for putting this event together. And thank you all for coming on this beautiful October evening. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Jason Cox, if I haven't already knocked on your door. My wife, Millie, and I bought our home here in Naramata 8 years ago. We've raised our 4 girls in our house on the corner of Spruce and Arawana. I remember the first time my oldest daughter came here. She'd been away working for the summer, and I was mowing the lawn. She came running across the yard and hugged me, and I said, "Welcome home." And she leaned back and looked me in the face and said, "This is home." I've joked since then that we have such a feeling of place here that when I leave, it will be when they carry me feet first out the house, and I spend eternity over there on Bartlett. By day, I work at CIBC. I'm a consultant responsible for the sales and credit development training for the business banking team for the broad region of all of BC South, a job that I'm very grateful to be able to do almost entirely from my kitchen island at our home in Naramata. Although sometimes I think Millie would prefer if I would go to an office and loudly and passionately walk around the room talking finance and relationship management. I've also spent the last almost 20 years elected as a member of the Penticton and Wine Country Chamber of Commerce, advocating on behalf of our region. In addition to that, I volunteered heavily in the region with organizations like the South Okanagan Smoking Brain Injury Society, the United Way, Canadian Mental Health, and pretty much every City of Penticton Advisory Committee. I have spent many years developing strong working relationships with the stakeholders and decision makers that are important to us regionally, provincially, and nationally. I understand the issues facing our community. I'm prepared to be your strong voice at the RDOS table to ensure that we protect and preserve what we love about Naramata, Chute Lake, Glenfir, and Falcon Ridge.
Thank you, Jason. We'll now hear from candidate Anita Molero.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for coming. It clearly shows what an engaged community Naramata is, and that they care about its current and future identity. As you may already know, I am a recent year-round resident of the area, but have been visiting the community for over 25 years with my husband of 37 years and my 3 adult children. I have a background in architecture and planning. I decided to run for the position of Director of Area E, as I have always been passionate about giving back to the community that I live in. I am currently retired, but feel that I have a lot to offer with my 20-plus years of experience as a senior member of staff in the public sector at the municipal level. I bring my knowledge and experience in leading and managing diverse interests and multidisciplinary teams on complex projects and problems. I do this by utilizing my listening, collaboration, and creative problem-solving skills, whether it's an administrative process improvement, zoning and built form issues, transportation projects, or environmental initiatives. I understand the big picture, but am also acutely aware that it's in the details. The policy and its implementation needs to be properly understood, managed, and executed. Throughout my career, the overriding tenet of my planning policy and decision-making functions was based on neighborliness and achieving the best possible outcome for the benefit of the community. I do my research, ask questions, deliberate, do objective analysis by being open-minded and flexible, and demonstrate patience. I am confident in my ability that I can provide a strong, experienced voice in representing Area E at the regional board, and in addition, at being confident in my decision-making on your behalf as your director. The community of Naramata is unique, and its future needs to be carefully managed. Thank you.
And finally, with opening comments, candidate Adrian Federigo.
Instead of reaching over, I'll just stand up, a bit easier. All right. Thank you, Deb and the NCA, for organizing tonight's event, and thank you to Craig for moderating. I think the attendance tonight speaks volumes about how much you all care about our community. I am up here because I, too, care deeply about Area E. I'm running for Area Director for a few reasons, the main one being all of you. In the last 5 years, I have had the privilege of getting to know many of you through chats at commission meetings, walking down the middle of the street, at school drop-off and pickup, at our local coffee shop, various nonprofit group meetings and activities, the market, and when you visit our gelato shop. I relish in these opportunities and absolutely love them. I could talk to you all day. For those who I have not had the pleasure of meeting, I look forward to future opportunities for our paths to cross, and please do come speak with me when we are done tonight. It is through these conversations that I hear your frustration with different community items and questions about how we can have a say in land use matters. Through our conversations, I often answer your questions and specifics on land use items or bylaws because I have a knowledge in those areas. And sometimes we contemplate how we can make the community better. I am here because I have been listening to you and want to bring your feelings forward to the regional board and the province. I want to make your ideas happen, and I want to ensure Area E is the best that it can be. I'm ready and motivated to be your director, to put my education and knowledge to work for you. I have a strong background in community and economic development, grant writing, public engagement, and board governance, as well as my historical knowledge about previous decisions made from the board, for my love of reading board agendas and watching meetings. It is vitally important to me to know what decisions are being made at the board table, and I want to be your voice in decisions. With notebook in tow, armed with knowledge, matter-of-factly stating, there's a grant for that, I am an Area E resident who is ready to represent the interests of you, Area E residents, at the board table and ensure our voices are heard.
So let's begin with a submitted question, and Anita in the rotation will be the first to answer, followed by Adrian, then Jason, on the 90-second reply to this submitted question. What is your position with respect to hillside development and RDOS assuming more control of what happens on hillside properties, particularly those owned by developers?
Thank you for the question. As I mentioned at the community meeting a week or so ago, I was shocked and appalled to see the essential clear cutting of the land up there on the hill, and was also surprised at how the RDOS has very little power to control and manage how that development unfolds. That's certainly not been my experience at the municipal level. We have a lot of tools in zoning and bylaws where we can implement requirements, oversee construction processes, and I'd like to bring my knowledge and expertise in that area to the RDOS and to see where we can modify and adapt our rules that we have here so that things like that don't happen. Clearly, I mean, the first step would be making it a development permit area with requirements to properly site plan where we can retain trees and minimize the amount of cut and fill that happens on sites such as that.
Great, thank you. Adrian?
Oh, I'm leaning in. So with the hillside development, with regards to, I'm on the OCP committee, and we had been talking about our growth boundaries, and we've had some really interesting conversations about where we want to see that, and it was unanimously decided that up on the hillside is not where we want to see that. So I'm going to make sure that in the OCP it strongly outlines our growth boundary and where we want to stay and mitigate that development. And then from there, just pressuring on the board and our RDOS planning department to enforce the environmental sensitive development permit areas and really have a stronger say in what happens up there in terms of not having these big clear cuts that are happening, and stronger focus on the permits that are coming through and the geotechnical studies, and making sure that those are strongly looked at to prevent what's happening.
We'll throw it over to Jason in just a second, but if you'd like to come up to the microphone to ask a question after Jason gives his reply to the question that's currently to the candidates, please get yourself set to come up to the microphone after Jason provides his reply to the question. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you for the question. It's obviously been a very hot-button issue in the last several weeks, as there was a rain that caused a mudslide that did some damage to some properties and caused debris to come into people's garages and yards. But even before that, when you looked across the lake and you saw that clear cut that happened, I think we were all shocked to see that. And the interesting thing is that decision goes back 20-some years before our current director was in place. Those land decisions were made, and we haven't had an OCP review since 2006. So I'm very excited to see that that's happening. I'm very excited to hear these voices and how many people are engaged over this issue, because we see how important it is to make these decisions that are going to be long-lasting and have long-term consequences. Let me say unequivocally that I'm not in favor of any more hillside development above the KVR. I think we have to draw the line somewhere, and that seems like a really good natural break. And so I'd like to see us have the oversight on the developments that are going on to make sure that environmental areas are protected, that safety is there to prevent runoff damage to neighboring properties, that we're all good neighbors, and that in the future we keep the development below the KVR line.
Great. Thank you, Jason. And when you ask a question, if you have like a two-part question, try and combine that into one question with maybe, just sort of the benefit of the candidates, because they have 90 seconds per question. So you have to kind of maybe massage the way you word it, I don't know, or ask a second question a little bit later. But invite anybody to come up now and hit the microphone. Or I've got a ton of questions here from all of you or those folks at home.
Okay, so I missed the first little bit here, so my question's going to recap something. I'm really interested to know how long each candidate has actually lived full-time in this community, and what each candidate has done to better this community in the years that they have been here. For example, committee work, volunteer work. Have you raised any grant money? What have you done to make me want to put my faith in you keeping this village and this region for the people that live here, not the people that are coming in to invest?
Thank you. We'll begin with Adrian on this one, on the rotation.
Perfect. Thank you for the wonderful question. So we have lived here for 5 years, and I'm going to talk really fast because there's a lot that I've done. So I've been on the rec board for 3 years. 2 of those years I was actually our rec coordinator, so I couldn't be on the board, but I'm currently the vice chair. I'm the vice chair of I'm on the APC, our Advisory Planning Commission. I've been on there for a year. I am the vice chair on our official community plan advisory Review Committee, so we've been doing that for the last year. I was on the Play School Board as both president, past president, and secretary, so our kids have aged out. We're not there right now. I'm the president of the Naramata Fair Society. I've been doing that for about 4 years. I've got 2 neighborhood small grants that I've put into the community, so I was doing a Naramata yearbook, and we had a beach dance not too long ago, and I have written and submitted grants for both the Naramata Fire Department and for the OAP, which was a giant one that we got for Spirit Park, which hasn't been released yet, but I'm putting that out there. Yeah. Sorry. Too close. Okay. So your words aren't lost. Closer. Okay, closer.
And Jason, you're next on this question.
Sure. I think I mentioned in the opening, but I'll say again, I've owned my home on Spruce and Arawana for 8 years. Before that, I was in Penticton for 12 years, and before that, I was going to school in Kelowna. So I've been in the Okanagan a very long time, but I've been in Naramata quite a while now as well. And we've just, I think, gotten past the point where people recognize us or our address by who used to live there, and now they recognize. They don't say, "Oh, that's Carolyn King's house." They say, "Oh, it's Jason Cox's house," or Mildy's house, actually. So I've been here a good while, and I've been very active in the region. So like I said, president of the Penticton and Wine Country Chamber of Commerce for three times, on the board for 16 years, and that is Penticton and Wine Country. So it covers the Okanagan or the Naramata area as well, Area E. Through that, I was part of the initiative around the national initiative to open up borders for international or interprovincial wine sales. That was an initiative we started. Have done economic development in the region. I was also president of the South Okanagan Similkameen Brain Injury Society when we took over the administration of the seniors housing that's here in the community that's income supported in Naramata. And a number of other work I've done, the VIA 97 committee in the region, Highway 3 safety, Red Cross emergency response for forest fires. I need more time as well, but I've done a lot of work in the region and in the community.
Great. Anita.
Thank you. I think it's wonderful that you have 2 candidates here that have fantastic volunteer experience and commitment to this particular community. To answer the lady's question, I got occupancy on my house 4 weeks ago, so I am a permanent resident here now for 4 weeks. I acknowledge I do not have the volunteer history in this particular community. My purpose for running is to offer Naramata my skill set and experience in working within a government agency, a municipal government, but being able to ask the right questions, having the knowledge and expertise to push an agenda, what the community is interested in achieving. So that's what I'm bringing in my candidacy. I don't have the volunteer experience in the neighborhood, but I will learn about what you want and what your interests are and champion them at the Regional District Board.
Thank you. Mandy, you're going for the microphone, but will you hold off for just a moment? And then maybe I'll do a question from the from the box here, and then we'll get to you next, Mandy. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just, I don't edit questions, but I do have to kind of move some things around so it's not such a long preamble, because we do all know a lot of the issues. And this one's about the regional growth strategy in the news lately. One of the land use classifications is village settlement area, and it was defined by this process as an area extending to include all properties from Mill Bay in the north to the end of Hayman Road, Old Main Road on the south, from the lake on the west up to the pub on the east boundary. So feedback was to be submitted by Friday, September 30th, last Friday. Question is, and we'll begin with Jason on this one, can you please tell us, as a resident of Area E, if you provided your feedback? And secondly, what specifically are your views regarding the proposed boundaries for Area E village settlement area as defined in the regional growth strategy?
Thank you for that question. Yes, I absolutely did submit my feedback, and I encouraged our household to as well, and I even went online and encouraged others because I think it's very important. Nothing can stand in the way of all of our voices speaking up and being heard and explaining loudly what we want for the values of our community, for the community that we love. I don't like what's been done with the VSA and the regional growth strategy. I think it's lazy planning to draw a circle around an entire village and say we're going to double the density in this entire space. I think there are opportunities within the village that make sense for density and for infill. There are some houses, former cottages that are sitting on 3 lots in the city. I think those are opportunities where we can add more inventory to our system and hopefully build more products so that we can have affordable places for people to buy in the community. I think it's so important. But just we have to do that on a case-by-case basis where it fits with our community and what our community values are. Not just draw a circle around the entire thing like Donald Trump with a Sharpie and say, come at it, developers. You can just double the density in this whole village. I don't think that's appropriate. And as your representative, these are words I've heard from many of you, and I intend to take that also to the table at the RDOS.
Great. Adrian, would you go next, please? Adrian?
Sure. So definitely not happy with how big of an area that they have drawn, and that was echoed by many of you at OCP meetings and further community meetings that we've had. I definitely agree that they're way too big and they'll just encourage bigger growth to the area, and maybe not quite ready for that at this moment. So the planning manager didn't really do us any justice by not having a public engagement session in our community, and I heard that was a big frustration. So it's working with the planning department to make sure that they've got engagement out here so they can get the feedback from our residents to know that it's not something that we want. We don't want that. If that's not right where we're at right now, then they need to know that. So at the moment, I did put feedback in, yes, and that I was not happy with the boundaries that they have drawn.
Anita, please go ahead.
So the village settlement area, I understand why the planning department has circled the boundaries. The boundaries actually are more reflective of the original village settlement area. My extended family are right beside Manitou Park, which is on the south end of the circle, and they've been there since the early 30s or 40s, I believe. So it is actually part of the original village settlement area. I think the concern around the boundary or the definition of the village settlement area is understanding what it means. The regional growth strategy is identifying where the primary growth area will be, and it's saying it will be in the village. The OCP is the next layer of detail that will set out the scale and type of development within the village settlement area and where higher densities, I don't want to use the word higher density, medium density, and then it's actually zoning that controls what gets built. So that defining the village settlement area doesn't mean that it's suddenly going to become a medium density area. Zoning will control that.
Thank you.
Hello there, candidates. I'm very interested in environmental issues and land and water management, and I want each of you to speak to your knowledge and understanding of climate adaptation and climate resilience, and the principles of using natural assets as a tool for mitigating what's coming with our climate emergency. My partner Ava and I have written a book called Building Climate Resilience in the Okanagan, a homeowner's guide. It's available on the RDOS, and it has 70 links to a lot of great articles. One of the best ones is written by an environmental lawyer named Deborah Coran, and she shows a lot of case studies of other small communities that are doing a better job than we are. So if you could speak to climate resilience, climate adaptation, and natural assets, please.
Anita, the rotation has come back to you to begin.
Okay, so when I was in Vancouver, I worked on a couple of policy documents. One was the updating of the tree bylaw. We had a problem in the city where the urban forest was being cut down by development, and we had to strengthen the tree bylaw to restrict the cutting down of certain size trees, and development had to work around and build around and protect those trees as they moved forward on their construction. The other policy work that I did was rainwater management, where we were running into an issue where the sewer system there could not take the capacity of the rain that was coming down, and we had to develop not only policies around increasing the amount of permeable land that was in the area that could absorb the water, but to channel the water through rainwater strategies within the public realm. So those were a couple of the areas of expertise that I have worked on. Thank you.
And Adrian, please.
All right. So I was at the Climate Expo on Saturday that was put on by the First Things First Okanagan group. They did a wonderful job, and they had lots of great information that was there, and I was very thankful to attend and able to learn some new things. So at home, we live as environmentally friendly as we can. We make sure that we are buying biodegradable products and just making sure that what we're putting back out into the environment is as safe as it can be. In terms of trees and advocating that way, it is a resolution that needs to go to UBCM because unfortunately as a regional district you don't have the same authority over municipalities to just bring a bylaw in. It has been talked about and it just needs to be readdressed and brought back that this is something that we are passionate about and we want to see. And during the summer when you're put on your water restrictions, those are there in place to mitigate how much water is being used and out there. So we need to follow those as best that we can. And then just advocating for drought-resistant flowers and trees and just doing our best to advocate that we're here for the environment and
And Jason?
Thank you. Great question, and I can't wait to read your book because it sounds like there's a lot of good information there. My work with environmental issues started in the 90s when I was involved with the Okanagan Water Stewardship Council. So I've been involved with water management and worrying and thinking about those issues for a long time. As we continue to this community and others to build in forest interface, which is what we're seeing up the mountain, I think we're constantly at a risk of having catastrophic fires that happen. We've also in recent years seen that when forests are replanted, they're planted and then there's a chemical dropped over top where it restricts other things from growing, so we're not getting deciduous trees, we're not getting good mixed forest and land use up the hills either, which don't protect us well once forest fires do come. So I would also like to see a conversation in this community and lead a town hall and start to get a conversation going around food security, because I think we also need to grow more food in our region. We've seen a lot of fruit trees come out in place of grapes. I'd like to see, in public parks, fruit trees and nut trees and things that are sustainable in our community. We also should talk about how we don't have a proper system that takes stormwater from the hillside, from where those developments are, down to the lake, and that's something we need to lobby the provincial government for.
Thank you. Come on down. Come on up. Here comes someone from the back of the room.
Good evening. Thanks you all, three of you, for being here and spending time with us. I'm going to ask a question. I feel like I'm current president of the daycare. A lot of people can't be here because they have little kids. So I want to ask a question on behalf of young families. And that is, what do you feel you can do in order to provide affordable housing to not only attract young families to Naramata, but that they can remain in Naramata? I've been here for 2 years. I came with my 4-year-old. Great place to raise a kid. But I'd like to be able to stay. And I know there's lots of young families that are facing a situation where they can't come because they can't afford to live here. And I would say we're not far off from small businesses being unable to hire someone to put coffee in your cup or wine in your glass. So, affordable housing, I'd love to hear what you plan on doing about that.
Adrian, please start.
I have the hot seat. Well, we are a young family that's in the community, so I definitely understand the need for affordability. And with that, I would like to advocate for different types of housing. Traditionally, you see affordable housing as duplexes or townhouses, but there's other options out there that I think are just as wonderful that can house families within our community. So that would be one area that I would be advocating for. They also doesn't have to be high-rise buildings. They can stay within the 1 to 2 levels that we would like to see in our area. And there's also grants that are available out there that will support building houses, not necessarily supportive housing, but will help build houses that are affordable. The CMHC, Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation, has some. BC Housing has grants that are available, and we can use those to work with nonprofits in the community to build those assets for us. So there is funding that is available because it's recognized as a need pretty much worldwide. So there is ways that we can do it, and we have great examples already in our community.
And Jason?
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, there are some opportunities for infill within the village right now for more houses, single-family homes to be built, and possibly duplexes or 3 or 4plexes that are still single level or maybe 2 stories high. Additionally, there are opportunities for what I like to call attainable housing. Affordability is such a funny word because it means different things to different people. And I think building attainable housing, we have opportunities. For example, on the land that we're gathered on tonight, there are opportunities to partner with this society and other societies in the community with BC Housing to build housing that is attainable by people on an income determined basis. So it isn't just something that's built to a developer and then it flips one time and then it's all of a sudden it's market rates again, and we've lost that opportunity. So we want to build affordable housing, attainable housing that's sustainable, tenant after tenant or owner after owner, and long-term, and build that long-term sustainability so that people like you can trust to move here, that you know the cost of living is going to be consistent and over time, and you can raise your family, fill our school, and fill our neighborhoods with laughter and kids riding bikes down the middle of the street, all those things that we love about this still village community.
Anita, please.
Yes, both my colleagues have mentioned that the tool for achieving affordable housing is partnerships with nonprofits. Also working with BC Housing to get them involved in developing housing in the area that's family focused. There's a diversity of housing types, of course, townhouses, infills, row houses that could be built. I think we have to recognize that affordable housing tends to be a rental product. It's not a home ownership product, because that's what developers build, and developers aren't really interested in building affordable housing per se. They're looking for a profit. So we have to look at those other government agencies to help support affordable housing in this area. And it's a critical issue to support the school and the preschool in the area.
All right, thank you, Anita. I'll do a quick question from the pile over here. Jason Cox will be the first to answer on this one. Some people want to see a 30-kilometer-an-hour speed limit in the village area. What is your opinion on this 30-kilometer speed limit?
I think that's a great idea. When I come to the village, again, I live up the hill on Arawana, but when I come down the hill, I'm always impressed at the number of people who are out in the community, of all ages. Obviously, we're taught to look and make sure that we're looking for kids starting out chasing a ball or on a bike, but there are dog walkers, there are people getting exercise, there are people walking around the block and saying hi to their neighbors, and I think 30 kilometers an hour is an entirely reasonable speed to go through the community. I don't think anyone needs to get to the store that fast or that badly, that they need to go any faster than that or back up the hill either. So I would support that.
Adrian.
I think 30 kilometers within the village would be wonderful. We have quite a few who still speed through the playground zone and the school zone, not recognizing that it is 30 there. So throughout the entire village would be lovely, but we need to push for the province, and I know it was done a few years ago, to get a crosswalk in or some flashing lights up around the school, and so we need a few. If we're going to go down to 30, we'll need a few of those throughout the village just to make sure that our speed limit is reduced, but I think it would be important to casually take your time and take in all the village sites.
We'd love to hear your opinion, too, with another question, but we'll first hear from Anita. So get ready to pounce on up to the mic after Anita gives her response to this question. Go ahead.
Yes, I certainly support the 30-kilometer speed limit. It is actually the speed limit that's happening in a lot of jurisdictions to support a walkable, pedestrian-oriented community. So it is becoming more and more the norm, and it's actually been proven through a number of safety analysis that it's made the communities and neighborhoods where it's been implemented safer.
Thank you.
I'm enjoying this evening all the talk about community, because I think everybody in this room has a very deep sense of this community. The thing that I think and has been coming up a lot over the last number of years is vacation rentals and how they are eroding the sense of community. I mean, I live below Bartlett, and Bartlett has become known as the VRBO street because nobody actually lives there anymore. And I do believe that the RDOS has some jurisdiction over this as opposed to some of the development issues. What would be your specific plan to either limit or address the issue?
Thank you, Renata. And we'll begin with Anita Molero.
Yeah, there have been concerns about short-term vacation rentals in many jurisdictions across the province, and it's certainly hitting the Naramata area. And also with the non-regulated ones are to a certain degree more problematic than the regulated ones, because there's no one that's accountable to the community because they aren't regulated. I think the issue here is that the short-term vacation rentals my approach is that they have to have a permanent resident living in the house at the same time. So if you've got a secondary suite and you're putting it out as a short-term vacation rental, then you have to be living in as the principal resident in that house. That way the neighbors know who they can contact if there's an issue or concern. The other problem with short-term vacation rentals is that when they are renting and there's no one accountable, those homes end up being empty during the winter, and so it starts to erode the whole sense of community and neighborhood feel.
And Jason Cox, you're next on this topic, please.
Yeah, this is a very big topic, not just here, but all over the world, really. Airbnb, VRBO are disturbers, the gig economy that came in. People didn't have bylaws. They weren't prepared. Municipalities, regional districts weren't prepared for this new type of do-it-yourself hotel business or B&B. And so a lot of communities are trying to play catch-up with this situation. I would say that I'm certainly still in favor of people who own homes in the community, who live in those homes, and are maybe doing an Airbnb to help them afford to live here. And that certainly happens with some people when they, the price of housing these days. If they can have a mortgage helper and it's a suite or a room in the house that they're renting out, or they're on site, that is certainly nothing that I think is difficult. What I do think is difficult are the number of people who just don't live here. People who own maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 properties within the city that are all rented out as VRBOs and Airbnbs over the summer that are dark in the winter. And so I think, having heard you and been to a few meetings and listened to people say that a permanent resident system would work, and we've seen it happen in other communities where actually product gets put back on the marketplace and homes are resold because people can't make the income that way anymore. So wouldn't that be great to have more homes for sale for families?
Adrian, please.
So part of the reason that I joined the APC last year was to actually have a say in how vacation rentals were going. So when any new TUPs come to the APC, I've been voting in favor of those that have someone who lives on site and voting against those ones that don't. So I wanted to have my voice early on advocating for somebody being on site, and I definitely agree that that is a great way to go. After door knocking and chatting with people in the community, and you're like, oh, have you visited my neighbor, and then it gets to like, oh, that one's a vacation rental. Like, you can just feel how that there's that loss of community, that loss of the cohesiveness on your street. The other thing is that the RDOS Board of Directors actually brought forward to the planning staff earlier this year to do and look at the vacation rental situation, and unfortunately at the time staff had come back with they were just too busy this year. So one thing and reason for being up here and running is to advocate for the RDOS staff to look at this and take it seriously and put it in our strategic planning, that it is a high priority issue, not just here, but for the whole region.
Thank you. Someone from the floor can come on up, and Lynn is going to refresh the candidates' water glasses with tap water from Naramata. We can thank those that served on the Water Advisory Committee and our area director at the time back in 2006, 2007 for bringing this wonderful water source to us. That used to be an issue in this hall at many, many meetings over the years, of course. Sir.
Great. One of the issues or heavy discussions that have arisen during the OCP review and in response to development upslope from the city or village core here has been the identification of a need for second major access in and out of Naramata. I have 2 questions. What is your view of that matter? And if it is a positive one, how would you carry argument to the board, which you would then become a member of, notwithstanding the administrative and jurisdictional difficulties, to argue for a second access?
Thank you, Ray. I think we're back to Anita again for the first time here. This one, please.
I'm not sure that you need a second access to Naramata, so I can't answer the question positively. I think that's one of the things that's really unique about Naramata is that it's you can't drive through. You're coming to. It's a destination. It's a purposeful trip to make to come into Naramata and go out. Having said that, though, I appreciate that the road coming in and out has its challenges. And I think you have to balance off the nature of the road that forces people to drive slowly as opposed to making it bigger and wider so that people can drive faster. So I think to ensure the village status or character of Naramata, I don't think a second access is needed.
Thank you. Jason?
I'm so grateful for this question. This is something I've done quite a bit of work on over the years for our region. As I mentioned in my opening, I was part of the VIA 97 committee that lobbied and negotiated with the Ministry of Transportation around the widening and straightening and safety of Highway 97 from Osoyoos to Sicamous. And so when you bring up the topic of a second road, an interesting thing that came up in those discussions that Kelowna was lobbying for was an access to the north, and that we would connect through Okanagan Mountain Park so people from Kelowna could come into Naramata and Penticton faster. That is something I lobbied against because I don't think we need that kind of a second road. A second road that maybe goes over the higher part of the hillside with the newer developments up the hill, that goes out to Spiller Road, that gives another access, another route that takes people off of Naramata Road, which, as mentioned, is windy and narrow and not always well maintained in the winter. Doesn't have streetlights in every place. So, getting some of that traffic up off that road, I think, would be a really good idea. Additionally, we need to look at some of the feeder roads like Arawana. There's a lot of, we live on the corner of Spruce, and there we hear a lot of traffic going up and down that hill, and with more and more homes being built up there, it's only going to be more so. So I do believe we need a second road to the south.
Thank you. And Adrian.
From an emergency standpoint, a secondary road would be beneficial because I know that there's lots of concerns that if we needed to evacuate, where and how would we do that? In this case, we do have the KVR during emergencies, so we do have that secondary access there. Haven't really given much thought to a second road. I think that for now, with the amount of houses that we have and the people coming in and out, that Naramata Road's not wonderful, and we definitely could be lobbying to the province to make it better and work hard to slow the speeders down and just make it much safer. But I also think that with this coming up, public engagement and just gauging feedback from the community would be beneficial, just to see how many others have an interest in the secondary road and some thoughts on where that could go. And then together we could see what is feasible and look at putting a plan together.
Thank you. I'll do a question from my pile here from a community member. Have you received any funding or support from local business and developers? If so, from which ones and how much money or support? I think I got the order wrong last time. My apologies, Nita, for putting you on the hot seat there, but Adrian would start this one, please.
Our business has never benefited from any developers or anyone in the community aside from those who enjoy eating our tasty gelato, but no, we haven't had any other funding from any people.
Yeah, I think the essence of the question is the campaign, your campaign.
Oh, for campaigning. Not from any big developers, no, just some wonderful residents who are awesome and lovely.
Okay. So we'll next go to Jason.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I have received some donations from local citizens just like you that are not developers, that don't work for developers, they're not realtors, they don't work for realtors. I've received no donations from any part of a real estate or development corporation, nor would I. And even if they thought they could donate to my political campaign, that also doesn't buy my influence or my vote. If I'm elected, it doesn't mean I'm there to work for them. I'm always there as a servant of the community to work for you, and I'm not there for special interests. So no, I've not received any donations. I won't receive any donations, and even if I did, I'm not for sale.
Right. And Anita, please.
The simple answer is no. I have not received any donations from any developer or special interest group.
All right, thank you. It's on the floor. You know, you can sing your question, Yanti.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I am a year-round resident, and my work is seasonal. Is there anything that the RDOS can do to help those of us who have seasonal work, because that's what seems to be the most common here in Naramata?
Okay, thank you. Jason Cox will take this one first, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question, Yanti. A lot of my life has been spent working either as an entrepreneur or supporting entrepreneurs as a business banker for my professional career. I know I've also chaired the City of Penticton's Economic Development Committee and worked with that. The best thing we can do is embrace the region as an economic source. Before I came in, I went out and looked at a lot of the vehicles that are parked outside, and almost every one of them has a tag on it that says it was bought in Penticton. We know that we have this community that no longer really has a large barrier between, at least residentially, between where Penticton ends and where Naramata starts. So, we can add more commercial infrastructure in the downtown in Naramata. I'd like to see that develop. I'd like to encourage entrepreneurs to take opportunities to start businesses here. But we also have more growth coming here from business entrepreneurs, because we live in an economy now, like myself, where I'm able to work from home. So people who can work from anywhere are often choosing to come and live here. And I think we need to start a job board, a community networking system, because there are probably people who are working out of their homes who have an opportunity, would love to put someone to work in their business over the winter as well, to help them get through what may be their busy season when your busy season is the opposite. So I think there are tons of opportunities.
Thank you. Adrian, please.
Wonderful. Can you do rec programming? Because I know rec is always looking for people to help them run their programs. But also the RDOS can provide different resources, like Community Futures, who's there to help entrepreneurs build their businesses. The other thing is, through zoning, most of your residential areas will allow for a small home-based business, so there can be some encouragement there on how else you can build some fun products that you can put out there into the community that you could do from home. And we have, RDOS can also look at what other businesses that are around, like some local recruiters, or offering different business development type conferences, and just being able to put that out there, that they're like, who's looking for other employees, and just help support those who are around here who may be struggling in the off season, and those that are looking for work, we can help connect them together.
Anita.
Work opportunities come hand in hand with housing opportunities, come hand in hand with local-owned businesses. So all of those things support each other. So when you want to have year-round work, you have to have year-round businesses. And to have year-round businesses survive in a small community, you have to have population. So you have to have a combination of all three to support those businesses that provide the jobs for people to live here year-round, and you have to have the housing. So they all work together. So that's what the RDOS can do, is make sure that the zoning is in place to attract businesses to start, and that we can get affordable housing in here so that we have employees for those businesses. And that's how we can make those opportunities come forward.
Great, thank you. And Anita, you'll begin first with this quick question from the audience. Is there any way to get action on road repairs in Naramata?
I have no idea. Maybe that's what everybody's sentiment is. I'll be honest, I don't know what responsibility of the RDOS and what their timeliness is in doing road repair and which roads belong to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, but I will learn.
Okay, thank you. Jason?
Yeah, and it's a really good question. And one of the first things I learned when I moved here was we don't own our roads. It's all MOTI and right of ways. So this is an area where we need a strong voice at the table to speak to the Ministry of Transportation, which again I've done before, and let them know the importance of road maintenance, road upkeep in the winter as well, which I mentioned a minute ago, important issues of safety that affect the residents who are traveling on that narrow, windy road every day, as well as some of the other even narrower, more windy roads that go up and down from the lake and cut through our agricultural land. So the upkeep of our roads is very important. It's not something we have direct control over, but it is something that we can have direct and indirect influence over with a strong voice at the table who's experienced at negotiating with Ministry of Transportation and our other governmental and non-governmental partners.
Thank you. And we'll invite another audience question after Adrian answers the question on the table right now. Please go ahead.
If we were to plant flowers and trees in the potholes, someone may come out pretty quickly. But with that, if we work together to canvass to the province, because usually when voices come in numbers, it usually gets things moving a little quicker than just one voice. So it's great to have a strong leader that's going to be there and to continue to advocate. But if we continue to come out in stronger collective numbers, then the province will begin to see that they've got a bigger issue here. I've also heard that someone on the Ministry of Transportation's working team likes to vacation out here, so I'm hoping we can lobby to them a little bit better about how we would like some better roads.
Great. Thank you. Someone from the audience, please. Thanks, Stephanie.
I also chair the Naramata Society for Responsible Infrastructure, and so I appreciate your comments about the hillside, but I'd like to just pick up a little bit more on the road issue. And I appreciate my community member Ray talked about the secondary road. I'm really concerned about all the roads. We've got a 21% grade on Gone going up to Outlook and Kettle Ridge developments. We've got Arawana as the only other access for large trucks going up to Vista development and also Outlook. These roads were not built for, developments of that size. They can barely contain those of us that are already living up those areas. So I know that MOTI often just passes the buck to other, we've got too much on our plate, we don't have the money. What would you do to address the MOTI and to start putting their feet to the burner on these road issues? Before I see another secondary road to Naramata, I'd like to see the roads we have fixed up. Thank you.
And we'll begin with Adrian Federico on this one, please.
Perfect. I think advocating and asking for a car counter so we can understand how many cars are going up and down, and appreciating that right now may not be accurate just because it's not completely built out, but I think if we can start with understanding the volume and the traffic that goes up there, we can also put a camera up there just to see the size and types of vehicles, because right now you have a lot of construction traffic that's just, it beats down on the road. The roads can't handle that much back and forth. And strongly inviting someone from the province and continuing to advocate and continuing to pressure them to come out and just sit on the corner and spend an hour watching all the cars that go by, or walking up and down Arawana and just seeing that traffic, just to get them to get a stronger feel of what we are dealing with in our roads.
Thank you. And Anita, please.
One of the things that I would be looking for is when someone does a subdivision, they should be doing a traffic plan. And what that entails is looking at the capacity of the roads to service that subdivision and looking at the road conditions. But I think in terms of Naramata, we have a number of existing conditions like Arawana Road, where we need to have a fulsome engineering, transportation analysis, and road plan study that actually looks at the capacity, looks at the road conditions, looks at the intersections, and the potential risk for accidents. The Arawana Road, where it comes down into Naramata, when you're trying to make a left coming up from Naramata, out of Naramata, and you're going to go left on Arawana, there's a huge blind spot there. It's terrible. So I think there needs to be a comprehensive transportation road analysis for the area to see what is working and what is actually dangerous and what needs to be modified and fixed in the future.
All right, thank you. I'll throw a quick one in from the pile here. And we'll
that one too?
I'm sorry?
Can I answer that one too?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I missed you.
I love road questions. So, it is shocking that road is 21 degrees or 21% grade when you consider that the accepted grade right now is 8%, with 90 degree radiuses on the corners, and we in recent years saw an articulating truck get stuck halfway up trying to go deliver bottles to a winery. That is just what I was talking about a minute ago when I said the roads that go up and down are narrower and windier east of Naramata Road, and also down to the lake. So I think what we're hearing tonight is that one of our key partners as a regional district is the Ministry of Transportation, and we need to be having fulsome conversations. And I'll echo what Anita said and Adrian said, that data-driven decisions, studies that show who's using the roads, when they're using it, what type of traffic. Because right now, when I travel up Arawana Road, when I turn into Spruce, and I'm just the first cul-de-sac on the left, even the way that the ditches are cleared from foliage, I'm surprised I haven't been creamed turning left into my driveway yet. And I don't want to wait to a point where one of our kids going up to the bus stop for school gets creamed, or we have a serious accident from a lack of sight lines that then we get the ministry's attention. I think we need to get the ministry's attention as a course of business.
Great. Yeah, sorry about that, Jason. And we'll start with you on this question and then move through the panel. But this one first asks, so take note that the member of the public asks, have you read the RDOS Code of Ethics for members? And as area director, often situations will evolve where your personal opinion or desire may not coincide with the wishes of the people you represent. When decisions are to be made at the board, how do you intend to cope with such a conflict? And we'll start with Jason.
Yeah, thank you. So I have actually held an elected position in the community as president of the Chamber of Commerce, and on that board. It's elected by the business community, but it does represent a constituency. And so there have been many times when around the table, it's not about leading a conversation where I want it to go. Often, when it's a community discussion or a board discussion, there are many voices at the table that need to be heard, and you get to what I call the wisdom of the room, the wisdom of the group, and you find a balance in those communications. And so I have a lot of experience in that, and also understanding that I am here again as a servant. I'm here as your representative. So I pledge to have my personal cell phone ready, to have many town halls, to attend community meetings, and always hear your voice and represented at the decision-making stakeholder tables. I've done it before in the past. There have been times when I was president of the chamber and the business community wanted to go a certain direction. May not have been my personal opinion, may not have been the community's opinion, but I stood up and I fought for what my constituents told me to advocate for. And so I have experience doing that. I have no problem with the Code of Ethics or remembering who I work for.
Adrienne, can we hear from you on this one, please?
Sure. I have glanced at the Code of Ethics, but not in depth at the moment. So I have been watching board meetings for the last couple of years just to get an understanding of how the board operates, sort of the other board of directors, and how they interact with one another, just to get an understanding of fellow directors and how they are making decisions. I recently completed a certificate in public engagement because as a representative for the community, I want to make sure that we're going out to the public and really understanding what it is that you would like for the community, and then I, at the board table, would represent what you reflect, what it is that you desire. And if it's not, we're here for you, for the community, and that's what that I would represent and bring forward to the board and fight for.
Anita.
My role as director is to represent the community's interest and not my personal opinion. However, we all have to recognize that not everybody agrees. Even when you think you have 100% consensus on something, you don't. There's always a nuance where a decision is not quite the way that everybody or some people would like. At the end of the day, you have to find the right balance and make the right decision for the majority and not for the few. And that's my role as a director in representing you.
Good evening. We live in the agricultural land reserve. I would like to know how can RDOS help our farms house the traveling farm workers, which we rely on, that, there is no wild camping in places camping is not allowed.
Great, thank you, Anna. Anita, you'll begin with this, please.
If I understand the question correctly, you're wondering how the RDOS can support the agricultural community in providing housing for the workers? Okay. Yeah, I think historically it's always been done through ad hoc camping and or with campgrounds. And I believe there used to be more campgrounds in the area that would allow for seasonal workers to come in. So I'm not sure if it's something within the zoning that can allow the agricultural community to build facilities on their sites to support their seasonal workers, if that's an alternative that could work. It's something that I would have to take some more time to research and think about and talk to you about.
Jason, go ahead, please, on this question.
Yeah, I mean, funny, I had a glib answer go through my head right away, which is put them in the Airbnbs. But I don't think people in those homes would appreciate that. You know, historically also there has been a history of agricultural land and agricultural providers, growers, of having pickers camps and cabins and things on site. And I think that there's an opportunity there where maybe that's been lost, and maybe there's been a desire for higher and better use out of every square inch of land so you get your maximum yield out of your product. I totally get that. But I'd like to think that maybe there's a way we can work with our agricultural community and bylaws and restrictions to allow for some on-site housing for pickers, and also more access to campgrounds. I know that there are some areas that are zoned for new campground, and I think having those move forward would be advantageous for that as well, because we have one or two times a year where product is coming off the vines or the trees, and we need that workforce, that whether they're coming from Quebec or from other places, to have a place to stay and work and help be part of our vibrant, thriving community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Adrian Federico, please.
So this year, the RDOS board actually voted to bring in TUPs to allow for housing for seasonal workers on agricultural land. The RDOS also has to work with the Agricultural Land Commission on what is allowed on their properties, and the ALC can sometimes be fairly restrictive with things that are allowed. So it would be advocating to the province to have some of those restrictive rulings changed. It is getting better. They now are allowing a secondary home, which was there and then taken away and is now brought back. And so there are current things that are in the works that are helping to move that forward. But what we could do is look at how the TUP process went from this year and reach out to our farmers to understand the process, whether it worked, whether it didn't, and then tweak that process if needed.
I'll do one from the audience again. And you may have already replied to this in some of your other comments, so please be brief if you want to. But the question is, what is your current employment situation, and how will you manage the time commitment of area director along with that? So Adrian, you're first on this question, please.
So I currently work for the City of Penticton in the Planning and Development Services Department, and so because I am a municipal employee, if elected, then I would resign from my position with the city, and so that would give me an abundance of time to be dedicated to being your area director.
Anita?
Hi, I'm currently retired, so I have all the time in the world.
Jason.
Hi there. I did speak earlier. My role is CIBC, so I'm a consultant, which means that I work from home, and my hours are very, very flexible. So I've been doing this kind of work, like I said, having been elected to a lot of boards and committees and organizations around the province and around the region for many years, and I will continue to sacrifice some family time to continue to contribute to the community, give it my full attention.
All right, thank you. Hi, Miranda.
Hi. My question is around Naramata's designation as one of Canada's 3 Cheetah Slow certified communities. Just want to hear from the candidates about their understanding of the Cheetah Slow designation and how they feel that informs the job of the RDOS in creating community and supporting community in this community of Naramata. Thank you.
Jason, you'll begin on this one, please.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm not as familiar with GeoSlow as I should be. I've watched for years as the Naramata Slow movement has been happening. Before I came back into banking, I spent a few years making natural beverage products downtown Penticton, and we were always happy to be part of that rich tapestry that is our region's interlacing of different types of businesses that really look at how we slow down, use what's available to us. But again, I don't know as much as I'd like to about that.
Adrienne?
So my understanding of change of slow designation is that it's utilizing the abundance of our land and the fortitude that we have and the fruits that are available and utilizing those and just enjoying life the best that we can and just taking that time to slow down. And in terms of our community, it's a great philosophy. We need to take that time to connect with our neighbors, to connect with our land, connect with our community, and just embrace the magical place that we live in.
Anita.
Yes, I'm not familiar with the GeoSlow designation. As best as I can understand it is using what you have within the close proximity, whether that's your food, your supplies, all that, local economy, building the local economy. So something that I would have to learn more about.
Great. Thank you. Well, we have about 4 minutes left, so would somebody like to come forward with a question coming down the home stretch here? Well, if you're thinking about it, I'll go ahead then. Candidates, and we'll start with Anita. What is your position on current RDOS bylaw complaints policy regarding enforcement of bylaws, particularly the need for a written complaint from the public before any investigation is done? So there was an article recently in My Naramata on that. I think that's what this gentleman's referring to, but the position on the policy at the regional district.
I think it's really problematic that if you have a complaint that you can only complain Monday through Friday and it has to be written. That doesn't work for addressing a neighborhood concern. So I truly feel that the RDOS should have a 24-hour line that if there's a concern, complaint, that somebody can call in. Yes, you can provide your name, but I don't believe it should have to be a written document.
Thank you. Jason, would you respond, please?
Absolutely. The bylaw enforcement is a huge issue. A lot of the things we've talked about tonight we've talked about increasing, bylaws and oversight and over hillside development and environmental concerns and spillways and rivers running down the streets into people's garages, as well as temporary use permits and noisy, a whole house rented out to 5 people or 5 families that are all using the pool till 1 a.m. with a sound system and a PA going and a DJ maybe, and the idea that on a Friday or Saturday night a resident would have to wait until Monday morning to make a written complaint, to have that formally, submitted in triplicate, to have someone come out and investigate long after that maybe a guest has gone and maybe the owner of the property isn't even available. I think that is not sustainable and not obviously really leading to a lot of frustration in the community that I've heard. So I think when we talk about enforcement, what we need to talk about is adding more staff. And so we need to go to the RDOS and look at the budget and add more bylaw enforcement staff, have a 24-hour line that is manned, and someone comes out and investigates things, whether it's 6 o'clock in the morning and there's a concern on a construction site, or 1 o'clock in the morning and it's a DJ playing the air horn and everyone's jumping in the pool. So that's it comes down to dollars for enforcement.
Thank you. Adrian, please.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it can be quite frustrating to have to put in a written complaint. We do appreciate that there's 9 electoral areas that need to be taken care of, which span a very wide and vast range, and it can be challenging for our staff to know what's happening in communities. So it is nice to have eyes from residents on what is taking place. Could it be simplified in that it's a phone call? Definitely, I think that there's room for that system to improve, and it's something that you can work with the bylaw team to address. And I do echo with Jason there that staffing is a concern, and so we can look at how we can increase having bylaw staff available.
Thank you. Please come forward with your questions.
So I was wondering if the candidates could talk about the official community plan and how we can give it more teeth, because I understand that it's just a guidance document right now, and if we're going to work hard on an official community plan and get the things in it that we feel we need for the future of our community, how can we give it some strength?
And we'll begin with Adrian.
Yes, the official community plan definitely needs more teeth. There needs to be a lot more added to it to address concerns that we have as residents. The biggest thing with this is the advocacy of your director. The planning department is the one that puts your OCP together with the input and thought from residents, but it does come down to how your planner that's dedicated to the document puts it together and then brings it forward to the area director. So the area director needs to be firm with what they'd like to see in it from the wishes of the residents, and from there also convey that to the other directors, because the other directors are going to have a say in the final outcome of the document. So it's making sure that what's in there is truly what the community wants, and advocating significantly to the planning manager and to the planning staff that this is what you want in the document.
Great. Nita?
The official community plan is a really important document, and it needs to be comprehensive, and it needs to have the details and the wishes of what the community wants to achieve and what the community wants to control. As Adrian has mentioned, it's both the planning department's responsibility but also the director's responsibility to ensure that what the community interests are embedded in that document. The official community plan is what lays out the framework for what the zoning that underlies it, and the zoning is the tool that what you see gets built around you. So it is a very, very important document because it helps everyone understand the long-term objectives and goals for the community.
And Jason.
Really great question, because we have this because we exist within the region. The sort of the overarching document, the umbrella document, is the regional growth strategy. That's for the whole region. And then each community has their official community plan, and then from there we've got, as mentioned, zoning and bylaws and things that add the teeth around that. The biggest thing will be and has been community involvement, people attending the meetings, responding to the things online that you're sent, to participate, to add, and to think long-term about these things. When you consider what I said earlier, that the last OCP was done in 2006, so it's been 16 years since we as a community have looked at an OCP, and so it's important that we do this regularly, because what I've seen in this and other communities is that the OCP becomes what they call the catchphrase, the buzzword is a living document. And in Penticton, it's happened that the OCP gets passed, and within a month, it's a living document, that there are variance permits that are coming forward from developers that are already out of step with the OCP, and that council in the past has gone forward with that. So in order to have teeth, which is what the question was, is we need to have the clear message from the community written into the OCP, detailed, reviewed regularly, supported by bylaws and zoning, and people at the table who speak with our other directors and make sure that we are all on the same team for supporting that regional growth strategy.
One more question from the audience before we wrap up. Anyone? Put your hand up and head on up to the microphone. Okay, going once, going twice. I'm going to end with the question I posed to the candidates a couple of weeks ago for them to provide a prepared answer. And this, speaking of baseball as I did earlier, I guess this is a softball question, but hopefully it'll be an insight into their character and their community life and that kind of thing with their answer. So they have 60 seconds on this one if they want to take that long. And Jason will start. The question is, Thanksgiving is coming up. What are you thankful for in this community?
So much to be thankful for, and when I got this question, thank you, Craig. I immediately thought of as a child when I was growing up, we would always look at Thanksgiving as an opportunity to count our blessings and to consider those who have less fortunate circumstances. And so when I look around the community and I see that we have so much abundance, we have so many good neighbors and good friends and good family and goodwill, that's amazing. But I know we've also seen within our community people who are more vulnerable and people who don't have the abundance and don't have the access. And so I think about them in this time. I think about my own family and our children. And their opportunities for the future, and that's why I'm here tonight as well, is to be part of a better future, be part of a community for us all, where we take care of ourselves and our most vulnerable. So that's what I'm thankful for.
Adrian?
I am truly thankful for this community. We live in an amazing place, and we have such a diverse group of residents who care so much. And I absolutely love that's there, that we have that passion for being here. I'm also very thankful that we live on a land that give us such an abundance in the foods that we enjoy and the beverages that we consume with friends and neighbors. So we're very, very thankful and very fortunate for those opportunities. And there's some awesome people who are around in this community who fill my heart and make me feel super loved, and I'm very thankful for that.
And Anita.
What I'm thankful in this community is that I live in a community where apathy doesn't exist. It's so impressive and valuable and important that the people who live here want to be involved, participate, and look to solutions in a non-confrontational way, and that there's always a friendly face. I'm also thankful that this community likes to have fun. Hosting their quirky events is one of the things that is really attractive, like the duct tape and cardboard race, the egg drop, and the community's love for their peacocks, Kevin and Paul. Part of the question was to have some fun with this, so I am thankful that the community's favorite letter is A, N-A-R-A-M-A-T-A, just like Stompin' Tom Connors, C-A-N-A-D-A. Why, might you ask? Well, my name starts with A, as does my husband and 3 kids. I like to keep things simple.
And we're now at the time for closing comments, the reverse order from the opening comments. So we'll start with Adrian, followed by Anita, then Jason. So Adrian, if you're ready with your closing thoughts, please.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. One of the things that I love most about Narramations and the broader Area E residents is how much you care about this community. Your interest and engagement in community matters is encouraging. It's one of the motivating factors for me putting my name forward for area director. Being your area director is not just a job that I will show up to do. It will be a position that I am passionate about, a position that enables me to be the voice for those on our commissions, advisory groups, and nonprofits, as well as for the residents in our community. It is a position that I truly look forward to doing and will work incredibly hard at. I'm an Area E resident, a local Naramata business owner, a Naramata elementary school parent, an Area E volunteer, and an Area E community advocate. I am genuinely a part of and invested in our community. My interest in the community began the minute we moved to Naramata, has never stopped, and will continue long past voting day.
Anita Molero, please.
I believe in complete sustainable community principles, not just for Naramata, but for the regional district. That includes access to clean air and water, economic opportunities, a safe and healthy place to raise one's family, lifelong learning, diversity of housing opportunities, including affordable housing, a strong sense of community, and the community's ability to have a say in the decisions that affect their lives, their homes, and businesses. In this role as your director, it takes having both short and long-term perspectives, being focused on, anticipating, and adapting to change, both in the present and for the future. The community of Naramata is unique, and its future needs to be carefully managed by building on its vibrancy while also respecting the community's history and distinctive character. I hope that you consider that I have the expertise, skills, and knowledge to best represent Area E's interests and support me by giving your vote. Thank you.
And we'll wrap up the evening with Jason Cox and his closing comments.
Thank you. It's so heartwarming to see so many people out here tonight be part of this community forum. When I was a teenager, many, many years ago, I was invited to a community forum not too different from this. It was a town hall style meeting designed to gather community ideas for public policy. I didn't know what I was walking into at that young age, but folks were so encouraging. They asked me for my input. Ideas got jotted down, flip charts were written on and wordsmithed, and I was frankly shocked that the grown-ups in the room were even interested in my ideas. At the end of the night, I was approached to attend the provincial and national conferences to represent our region. My mom bought me my first suit, and off I went. Long story short, one of the ideas that came out of the head of a kid from rural BC ended up becoming a policy for a national political party. And I was bitten by the bug. I was hooked on the idea that every single one of us can be involved and make our community better. So many people we know say, I'm not interested in politics or my vote doesn't matter. But look at us all here tonight. We're proof that when people care about their community and show up on a Monday night in a community hall, our voices can be heard. I've taken this idea through my entire life, from working on Parliament Hill when I was 18, to my degree in politics, philosophy, and economics, to years of fighting political advocacy for the benefit of this community, for this region. For almost 2 decades, being elected by the community to the board of the Penticton and Wine Country Chamber of Commerce, and through that trusted position, serving on a variety of regional, provincial, and national boards. I've been actively lobbying other levels of government as an elected representative for this community for many years. This is a very important election, and the issues facing our community are critical. Decisions made in the coming months and years are going to have both near and long-lasting consequences. It's crucial that we choose a representative for us at the RDOS board that is ready to step in and work effectively on day one. The role of Area Director is about being an advocate for the people of Area E at the regional district table, to our regional neighbours and other levels of government. I humbly submit that I'm the candidate with the most relevant body of experience in the political sphere of this region to step up to that role and work effectively on your behalf immediately.
Okay, thank you. Well, I noted in the news a couple of weeks ago how across BC there were sort of record numbers of people being acclaimed to office, candidates that weren't being challenged, and so it's so that's a trend around the province. Maybe coming out of COVID, I don't know, or just generally people rethinking life. But we have 3 people who came forward to be candidates in this election, and we all now know them a little bit better than we did before we walked in the room. And so stick around, chat with them, stack some chairs with them, perhaps. And we want to thank the Naramata Centre for this venue, and of course the NCA and their volunteers for helping out tonight. Peach City Radio, thank you for broadcasting this tonight, and it'll be available to listen to on demand, and I'll provide a link on My Naramata for that. So, is this where I say we're officially off the air? Thank you for listening.
All right. So Nils, that was our second. That's been your third forum now in almost as many days. What struck you different about this forum than even the one we broadcast earlier this afternoon?
A multitude of things. It's definitely a different group of people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't recognize any of them. It was run differently. I don't. I need a little more time to compose my thoughts on this one.
Okay. Yeah, no. For me, I felt that you could really sense the sense of tight-knit community here.
Totally.
I think that the answers that were provided were much more thoughtful and really thought-provoking, and I could tell that the people really spent a lot of time considering what they might talk about today as they were approached on the panel by the questions from the community.
Yeah, and now that you mention it, yes, I totally agree on that point. It really felt like you could, just in the word choice and the pause to think about it, the answers that were provided, you could tell that these people, it's home.
They're really passionate about the community, and I think that's really great. So thanks once again for tuning in. You're listening to CFUZ 92.9 FM. Or online at cfuz.ca. My name is Dave. I'm joined by Nils. We're volunteers here at Peach City Radio. If you think this broadcast was a worthwhile service provided by Peach City Radio, we encourage you to visit our website, cfuz.ca, and provide a donation because we are 100% volunteer-driven community resource, and taking time out of our daily lives and our jobs to come here and provide this service for the community. We're really happy to do it because we feel that an engaged, informed community is paramount to having a great community, and I think that's a part of our pillars and our mission statement altogether. So thanks once again for joining us, and we will now return you to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yep. Good night.